How's it going, my fellow parents? Life is about stages. I'm a 45-year-old man right now. And if I just look back on my life, I can just see like how I've grown, how I've matured, how I've kind of gone through the stages. Just even as a young married man, when I was young in the first couple years of marriage, man, I was so young and dumb, and I was just making so many mistakes. I didn't really understand marriage. And now, after being married to my wonderful wife Danielle for 20 years, I can just see like, hey, I can look back on these 20 years, like, okay, this is where I was, and then during these years, this is where I was, and I could probably even put titles like little Netflix chapters to our lives. And even if I think about my professional experience of working with families and teenagers for 25 years now, I can see like, you know what, I'm growing and I'm maturing. But for me to do this, I've had to make shifts. I've had to grow up. I've had to realize like, hey, that stage of my life is over. It's time for me for a new stage. So Jordan, you're in your professional career. Tell me, what are your thoughts on these stages that you've been through?
It's so funny because if people ask you, that age old question of like, well, if you could travel back in time, would you, and do it all over
I
again?
like that
And like
question.
most people would say,
Yeah.
yeah, as long as
Yeah.
I have the mind I do now
Right.
and the
Yeah.
maturity I do now.
Yeah.
Because the reality is we were all stupid. We were all just dumb. Some of
Yes.
us are lucky to be alive. The decisions we made aren't the best. But I mean, that's with anything, right? And that's why it's so wise to just kind of like sit back and listen sometimes. So like in my profession, when I started out
Yeah.
on TV, golly, it was awful. I could
Really?
not believe someone hired me.
No,
Like
yeah,
I
you're
you
being
in
hard on
this
yourself.
industry,
Yeah.
no, but I mean in this industry, you have like a resume tape, something
Yes.
you send.
Right.
And if I watch that, it's like
Uh-huh.
I got to go to the other room. Like I
Oh
have to
my
turn it
gosh,
off. Like it
it's
is so
embarrassing.
bad.
Yeah.
So like I would try to rush and get everything out as fast as possible because I was so nervous and I wanted to get
Right.
all the information out there and I was so fast.
Yeah.
And over time, like I can now dissect my on-air speed in my mind, think about what I'm going to say before I say it, all while being
Yeah.
present. It's amazing,
It,
right?
it
And
is amazing. I see you on
it's
TV and
amazing.
it's like, gosh, it's so good. It's so polished. Right. And you weren't always like that. That's for sure. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think any of us were. And that's,
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to play into here is like, time is working for us, practice, repetition, whatever we're trying to do. We're not going to be perfect parents. It takes
Right.
practice to get it right.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do in today's episode. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about something very, very important in the parenting realm for us to be really good parents and build healthy families. Today's topic is so important, but we're also going to add a fun twist to it. So today we're going to talk about, the 5 stages of parenting that you are going to go through, and just using my coaching term, you need to go through, and about how as your kids kind of go through these shifts and they grow up and their minds changing, their brains are changing, you need to shift. And if you do not make these shifts, you're really going to be making some mistakes as parents, and it's really going to cause some problems. But if you can positively make these shifts, these 5 shifts from this age to this age, and how you change as a parent, well, then good things are going to happen. And if you're here listening to this, then you can even open up your Instagram and go to my Instagram page or Facebook or TikTok, wherever you follow me on social media. And I'm going to post this chart that Jordan and I are going to be referring to, and go take a glance at this chart. And if you can't do that, if you're driving in a car right now, here's what I just want you to imagine. There's kind of like help me describe this, like a triangle on a side. Yeah, take it. What are we looking
So
at?
basically it would be like your financial chart. Okay. And you have a financial history, and on the left is in the past. On the right is like in the future. So the bottom row is your timeline. And what we're looking at is an arrow going from the past to the present, and you have different stages of life. And, it basically, you can list them if you want, Sean, of the different stages.
So the 5 stages are going to be babies, elementary age, middle school age, high school age, or, senior high, some people call it, and then college and adult. And we're going to give you 5 words to really simmer in, to marinate in, of how your mind's going to be. And we'll leave you a little suspense, and we're going to kind of go through, and this is the stage you need to be in when your kids are babies or toddlers. Does that sound good, Jordan? Or we feel like
Yes,
we
please.
communicated that well to them? And here's what we're gonna do. And to make this a little twist, I sent Jordan a voice memo. I said, Jordan, I have a fun idea for tomorrow's episode. I said, hey, let's also talk about movies. Let's talk about, when you think about this stage, like the baby stage, what is one fun movie that comes to mind where it either
Okay.
highlights movies or highlights babies or toddlers, or it just highlights
No.
parents or family vibes. So we're just be like, so all right. So here's what the first one is very simple. We're not going to spend much time on it. Okay, the first stage is when your kids are in that babies or in that toddler stage. What your role needs to be? It's very obvious, everybody. You are a protector. You need to.
You
protect,
have to be.
right?
You have to
You
be.
have to
I mean, I was
protect
just
that
talking
child.
to my colleague. She just
Mhm.
had a baby,
Okay.
and she goes, I don't know what it is, but it's like we're at the stage where my baby's crawling, and everything that could kill him, he's interested in. Knife falls on the floor. Let me grab that knife and put my tongue
Yes.
on it. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a fireplace. Can I stick my head in it? It's like
Yes.
she's like, I'm constantly just trying to like. That's why they say you got to baby proof your house, right? 'Cause
Yes, you
it's
do.
amazing we've survived this long as humans because we just want to like, oh, there's a couch. Let me climb on it and jump off the
Right.
back.
Yeah, let's go a little deeper too. Like, for some reason on my social media page right now, I'm getting a lot of pop-ups. Not pop-ups, but a lot of videos that are showing about how the government has told us there isn't much good the government has told us regarding children and our screens. We have a couple episodes about that. It's very
Oh
good
yeah, it's really
episodes.
bad.
Really,
Bad.
really
Yeah.
bad and disappointing how the government has screwed us and let us down. And but what the government has done really well in is they've given us some knowledge, and it's out there. It's a lot out there, and it's showing up on my Instagram and TikToks a lot right now. Is that kids 2 and under really should have zero screen time or very limited screen time. So when we
Right.
say protect, uh, and I know this is a sensitive topic. I know that's really hard for some of you. You've got single parents, and you feel like I need the screens to babysit my kids, or hey, it's hard to go through Costco. But if my kids have an iPad, it's a lot easier. But
Sure.
we want to protect
Sure.
their minds. We want to protect their palates. We want to protect their diets. The first
Mhm.
5 is a real thing. Those first 5 years of a child, we're talking about serious attachment attachment bonding. We're talking about psychological development. We want to help this little baby human grow the way a human's supposed to grow, which is lots of nurturing, lots of cuddles, lots of kisses, lots of um,
Snuggles. I love
snuggles, lots of
snuggles.
babies sleeping in the bed,
Yeah.
co-sleeping, lots of gentleness, lots of picnics, lots of looking at birds, lots of taking to the walks,
Taking
going
walks.
to the
Yeah.
park. Right. We
That's
want to
good.
protect this child in a little nest, right, Jordan, to this first 5 years of life.
Yeah. And, the screens one's a hot topic too, but because, I mean, when my kids were young, I mean, I think it Baby Einstein was big at that time. It's like, hey,
Oh,
if your kids
so
watch
big. We
Baby
got the whole
Einstein,
disc. We got the
right?
whole DVD, like the 55 discs.
It was amazing. And they were like, oh, this will stimulate their brain. This is so
Right.
good for them. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that was a mistake. Like, why did we do that?
Baby Einstein. Yeah, they don't talk about that anymore because now it's
No.
phased out because they're like, you should not
Phased
be
out.
giving your kids
Shouldn't be doing it.
hours of Baby Einstein or YouTube, right? That's funny, man, that you brought that up.
It's so true though. Like I would still consider my little Kinlan a baby. He's 5, but he has Down syndrome. So I would say he's more like a 2/3-year-old. But just the other day, man, like we were visiting family
Yeah.
and, we make sure wherever he's playing, it's kind of confined because he's what we call a runner. He'll just run on. Like if you're at the airport, he'll just run. I'm like, where are you going, bro? Like our plane's over here. And he's
my
like, baby's
gosh.
day out, man. I'm going to
Oh
New
my
York. I'm going to have a
gosh.
great time. But he ran into the road or just about to, and his
Mhm.
sister had to grab him in a
Oh.
car, screeched, almost hit him. Like
Gosh.
it was very scary. And so that protective mode,
Yeah.
we need to protect our young and make sure that they're going to be
do.
safe so that they can make better decisions as they get older.
That's probably my number one fear. Believe it or not, is my kids just getting hit by cars. I'm very scared of cars. And so, yeah, and here's another thing. When you hear protect, this is very key. Now, this might sting a little bit for some of you listening, but if you have a parent or you're a parent of a toddler or someone 5 and under, I want you to send this to them, okay? And so here's what happens with me, Jordan. I get a lot of messages, from people, followers, fans, or even people wanting consult calls with me or my team. And sometimes if someone calls me and their child is like 5 or under, and they
Right.
say like, oh, my kid is this, or my kid is that, my kid won't listen, and I'm yelling all the time. You heard me say this on this broadcast before, and I do say this to their parent. Like I will respond to them, and this is what I believe. And I just say this to be helpful, even though it might sting. I just got to spit it out. Here it comes. If you're really struggling with someone who's 5 and under, like you just feel like you're losing your mind, you're yelling a lot, you're snapping, maybe you're doing something I hope you're not doing, spanking, or you're just constantly punishing this child. If your child is 5 and under, you've got to protect your own mind and protect your mental health, because your 3-year-old is acting like a 3-year-old. There's nothing wrong with your 2-year-old. There's nothing wrong with your 5-year-old. This is what it means to parent a child. It's tough.
At that age.
It's tough every day.
Right.
It's every day tough. So when you talk about protect, Jordan, when I talk about that, it means about protecting your mind and finding joy and happiness. This is freaking so hard, and it's hard. Some kids are harder than others, but does that think it's a little harsh to say what I said, or do you think that's good advice?
No, it's something I didn't think about, because when we look at this category of this stagehood, you talk about being a protector. I think of me protecting my kid. I never even think about me protecting my own mind. But see, what you did there is you brought me into this process more than just me being the controller of the process. I can control my kids. I protect them. I make sure they're safe. But the reality is, well, you're protecting your mind, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to protect your kid.
Yeah. Right. You got to.
That's good, man. That's really good.
Put your mind first over your kids. I know that might sound crazy. It might be hard to do, but you've got to show up, because if you're losing your temper, or if you're struggling in the first 5 years, it's so hard, moms and dads, those first 5 years. But you've got to take care of your co-parent. You got to take care of your mind. So, all right, man, let's go. Good. When you think of this, the baby stage, 5 through under, tell me a movie that comes to mind, and I'll tell you one that
okay,
I really
now,
like. Yeah.
Before I tell you this movie, I am basing this movie off of the word protect. I'm not basing this movie off of which movie has a baby in it, or which movie would be good for babies to watch. Okay. So when I think of protect, this is a movie that was, it was probably shot in the 90s. Okay. Do you guys remember when Sinbad was in movies? There was a movie called First Kid, where he was...
I don't know.
Yes, he was the president's security, right, for his child. And this was the president's son. Okay. And he was the security for the son. And he was the protector.
How old's the son?
He was the guard.
Sinbad.
At that stage of life,
off the edge. He was a big deal in the 90s, and then he's gone now.
I know. Was that middle school maybe? He was probably middle school at that time.
Kid? Was he like rambunctious or troublemaker or something?
He wanted to be. He wasn't allowed to be. He wanted to
Sinbad.
Meet friends. Oh. Yeah, but Sinbad had to protect him from the bullies, and had to, then they tried to get kidnapped. But when I think of protector, I think of someone like that.
It sounds like a good movie. So is that a good kid-friendly movie? It sounds like you'd recommend it. Recommend?
Oh, well, shoot. It was shot in the 90s. I mean, I watched it as a kid. I don't know if it would be.
Hey, I got a movie that holds up for sure. I love this movie. Oh, my gosh. Do you remember Daddy Daycare with Eddie Murphy?
Yes, that's a good one.
Oh, my gosh. It's a great movie. It's such a good movie. And then Steve Zahn is in that movie, who I think is one of the most underrated actors ever. Steve Zahn's that is just these guys, they lose their jobs and they're trying to make money. Their wife's like, you got to make money. And they're like, let me just create a daycare. There's even a sequel, Daddy Day Camp, I think. Love that movie. Okay.
That's good. Okay.
Okay. So
that's
elementary.
Relatable.
Okay. So let's move on to elementary. So now that's right in, we both have elementary age kids. I got a 7-year-old. You got 2 9-year-olds.
They're about to be 10. And my 10. Question, first off, state what this is. What stage is this called?
Okay, well, elementary age, what we're going to focus on here is teaching.
Okay, so you want to teach in this stage, but my question to you is, am I allowed to still be a protector at this age? Because I find myself doing that.
Well, this is like, that if you're asking yourself that question, you're in your sweet spot. That's where you should be. That is dude, Jordan, your question right there, that's the most important thing that anybody has said in this episode so far. That's it. So
I don't know. I mean, I think
I'm really going to make a little 3-point chart right here. How do you thrive in these stages? Point 1, do what Jordan just did.
Oh, ask yourself, what
Ask
stage
yourself,
am I in?
like, is this where I should be right now? Should I be teaching or should I be protecting? Like, should I, right? That's the tension of these stages.
Yes.
Man,
Yes.
good job.
Okay. All right, cool. Because sometimes like I feel like I still am in protector mode.
Yeah.
Especially if let's say my kid's got an issue with another kid. I'm like, well, I want to protect my kid. You know what I mean? I want to be the protector, and I'm still protecting my mind.
Tell me another story.
But I am trying to teach more.
Let me tell you a story, and then you tell me a story. Okay, so we have a long driveway here in my house, and on Sunday night we had some of our best friends over, Charlie and Sarah, and my little Kenzie got one of those Hot Wheel cars for Christmas. 4 or 5 months ago. It's a white Lamborghini, and what's dope, it has 2 speeds. It has the normal speed, but it also has a fast speed.
Sport mode.
It's a lot faster than a normal Hot Wheel, and we live on a nice cul-de-sac with a bunch of senior citizens. And so here she is, and she has her best buddy Riley H8 in the Lamborghini at the top of our driveway, and boom, they go down, and it's in fast mode. And I was hoping that the gears were going to engage and slow this thing down, but they are going down fast. He's heading right for the street.
Oh no.
And my heart,
that's a parent's worst nightmare.
Drops.
Hit the brakes. They don't have brakes on those things.
Brakes.
They have no brakes.
My heart drops. Even right now, I can sense my jaw getting tight. And, I just envision something very bad happening. I envision her going into the street and one of my neighbors turning that cul-de-sac. Or I envision her getting scared because she's going fast, and and maybe she turns to the right, and to the right we have a little cliff, and it would be down the hill, right? Or in the left we have bushes. And so thankfully the reason why she drives so fast is because she's had it for 3 or 4 months now, and she drove great. She's
able to coast out of it.
Yeah, she
not run into the street.
Did not go into the street.
But in that moment, you were in protective mode.
And I was a little bit in rage mode, enraged in my mind. And I have to ask myself, and I did, okay, what do I do right now? What do I do? Because if I was in protector mode, what I might have done is said, you know what, you're 7. That is so uncalled for. You cannot do that. You have a friend. How dare you? You cannot just traumatize your friend. You're traumatizing me. I could have lost my temper, but I could have said, no. Gosh. I said, you've lost it. We're done. We're done. Or I could have done all these other things. Furthermore, she even that same day, man, just a few minutes before that, she took the car outside of the boundary. So she's now driving outside the court a little bit, which is not cool because there's a rule. You can't go past this mailbox because of cars. And she broke the rule. Yeah. So I could have disciplined her. I could have taken it away. Said, you guys are done. But they're having such a good time. I decided that if it was my primary job to totally protect them, then I would take the car away. But that's not where we're at. It's my job to teach her to drive this car safely, because I cannot control the safety of this child. I can't. She might get hurt.
I can't wait to hear a story when she's 15 learning to get her driver's license, and that something like that happens. You're like,
So it's my job to teach her to drive the car safely. And that might include disciplining. It might include taking the car to the dump. It might include taking it away or punishing her. But what I decided to do there is to teach her. And so that is an example of this tension that we are all sitting in during all these phases. So what is teaching versus what is protecting? Tell me a story about what you're thinking about my story, or what comes up for you.
Well, I don't know if I shared this story last week or not, but it has to do with my kids getting older, 4th and 5th grade. And of course you start to get in the other kids starting to make fun of them and stuff. Yeah. And so I want to go into protector mode and protect my kids from, let's say, minor bullying, just teasing, right? Yeah. But the reality is I have to teach them how to respond to it so that they know how to respond to this when it gets really bad in middle and high school. Yeah. And so, one simple thing is they're just starting to call her, my daughter, teacher's pet. You're such a teacher's pet, teacher's pet.
Yeah, that's bullying. And she's getting bullied.
A little bit, it's just kids teasing. Right. I get it. And they're jealous. They're jealous because the teacher likes her, right? Point. I mean, and she wants to be a helper. And I'm like, why does this bother you so much? And She goes, well, I just don't want them to make fun of me about being a teacher's pet. So I asked, let's just say Madeline,
Mhm.
how I shouldn't be a teacher's pet. And Madeline said, well, then you have to be mean to the teacher. I'm like,
Oh
no, that is
my
terrible
oh my
advice.
God.
Do not do
Oh my
that, please.
gosh,
I'm like,
right.
this is a situation where, like, think about it. Do you like helping your teacher? Yes. Okay, so you don't like it when these kids are teasing you about helping your
Right.
teacher, but you do like helping your teacher. So the reality is how you respond to your
Yeah.
friends. If they're going to say you're a teacher's pet, just respond by saying, yes, I like helping out.
Yeah, man.
Why don't you help out
Yeah,
more?
buddy.
Right? And bring a question back to
Yes.
them. And she started doing it, and they all stopped,
Yeah.
teasing her. Now they're maybe thinking about how they can help.
Really good. Okay. I just had two dark images pass before my eyes.
Oh
No,
no.
they're dark, but they're good for our episode. Okay. Okay. I imagine you, and in this conflict, in this conversation with your daughter, you're on your phone and you're working, and you said, "Honey, I can't right now. I have to do this for work." And
Right.
then your wife comes in and she says, "Honey, stop. Daddy's working right now. Please leave him. Give me some space." And then she says to your wife, "But mom, I don't. I'm like I'm being a teacher's pet, and I don't like
Right.
this." And then your wife says, "Okay, honey, stop. I have work to do myself, and just we'll talk about that later. I need you to go and get ready for dinner, okay?"
Right.
I envision me
Now,
on my driveway, and I'm 5 beers in, and my buddy Charlie, who's there, he's 6 beers
yep.
in. And our
Okay.
kids are driving around, and we're really not even really paying attention. And the kids are going down the driveway, and we're like, "Whoa, calm down there, speedsters. Calm down." Or we're like, "What the hell are you guys doing? Get out of here. Get out of the car. You're done." Do you see where I'm going with this story? What's the
Yeah, the
moral of
parents'
these?
reaction.
What's the moral of these stories? What are you hearing? And I'll tell you what my intention is for these two dark dramas that I'm just trying to.
I'm hearing how important it is how the parent is going to react to whatever situation your kids bring to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Are they too busy for the kids?
What I'm talking about here, yeah, thank you. Well said, is there's no teaching in these stories.
Right.
These parents are disconnected for work, alcohol, enragement. See, the stories we first told were two stories of two dads stepping in to teach. And these other
Right.
two stories are stories, this isn't daddy daycare.
Avoidance.
We're just detached. There's no
Right.
teaching.
Protect. Detached.
Right? And so that's the challenge
Yeah.
of elementary. They require so much teaching. You with me?
That's so good. Do you want to know what movie comes to mind when I think of
Yeah,
teaching?
please tell me. And I'll tell you a
Okay.
movie that comes to
So-
mind when it comes to, yeah.
I got two of them. Okay. So for the younger ones, I'm thinking of something as simple as Moana and the grandmother in Moana who teaches Moana about her family history that she had no idea about how they're explorers.
good.
And she had to be taught that because her parents were hiding it from her. Okay. That's a simple
No, that's
one.
so
But the
that's
one that I
so good.
love,
And I want to, before you move on, I find it really hard to find movies and TV shows with really good parents or grandparents.
I know you do.
I don't know if it's just
know.
me. I just don't. And I actually had one on my notes too, buddy. Yeah, because it's
Oh, you
yeah,
did?
man. Because it. So thanks for sharing that. That's a really great thing. What's your other one?
My other one is much more comical. You guys know Jack Black. Have you seen the movie School of Rock?
So good. It's such.
School of Rock is one of my
It's
favorite
seriously
movies.
one of the best childhood movies of all time.
I love
It's
that
so
movie so much.
good.
And he goes into this elementary
Yeah.
school and he's basically teaching, not thinking he is, he's just trying to create
He's
a band.
parenting, yeah.
But he's teaching these
Yeah.
kids about these talents that they didn't even know they
So
had.
good, buddy. See, that's the problem too of movies. Like oftentimes with movies with kids, have you noticed the parents are not there? They're not involved. School of Rock, the parents are
Right.
really not involved. It's this awesome teacher.
Right.
Here, I got two.
Yep.
Two. So
Okay.
Um,
You got two also.
the first thing that came to mind is a show that I've been watching recently, and I'm recently watching Sheldon, is because I've had so many people recommend it to us, and it's like, this is
Dude, someone else just recommended that show to
it's
me
like,
too. That's so funny.
The two parents and the grandmother are really great parents because they're so flawed as parents, but they're present. They're really trying. And it's like such a great family show because it shows actual parenting. Like I grew up on like Married with Children. I grew up on The Simpsons. I grew up on, and then there's some great shows with TGIF and, Full House. And Full House had some great parenting. But today, Sheldon has some really great parenting. And here's a great show that has horrible parenting for elementary age. So everybody watches Home Alone around Christmas time.
Oh, I love me some
So
Home
good.
Alone. There is no
They're the
parenting in Home
worst
Alone.
parents, man.
There's
They
no
snap
parenting.
at Kevin McAllister. They call him names. They let him get bullied by his siblings. They forget about him. I mean, the
Right.
kid has got really crappy parents, man.
Yeah, and he stepped up to become his own little parent and defeated Marv and Harry. Way to go,
That's,
Kevin.
you know what? That's what happens though. If you are really working too
Yeah.
much, if you're drinking, if you are snapping, if you are too harsh with your kid, what Jordan just said is a prophecy that probably will come true. Your kids are going to learn that they have to grow up on their own, that there really isn't nobody there. And
Yeah.
if you're listening to this podcast, well, good news, that's not you because you're a good parent. You're listening to a parenting podcast. Middle school years. Okay, big shifts. Big shifts needs to happen.
This one's tough for a lot of us. Middle school's so hard.
So hard because they kind of look like kids. They're still acting like kids. And you think like you're not an adult until like maybe you're 16 till you're 18. But some of these middle school kids are doing adult things.
Very adult-like. Yes,
And
correct.
you're talking sixth graders that are sexting, pornography, getting in fights. Some are doing drugs, sneaking out, breaking the law, alcohol. And so, oh my gosh, so tough. So middle school years is a lot about you modeling. It's about you realizing that your kids are literally watching you all the time and they're getting snarky. They're starting to compare you to other parents, compare you to other parents on TV. They're looking at you and they're going to really start copying you. So if you've got a problem with your temper, well, then your 6th, 7th, 8th grader is going to start probably having a problem with their temper. If you got a problem with screens, well, your kid's going to start having problem with screens. If you've got a problem with working too much and you're detached, well, your kid's going to start detaching from you. Modeling. What do you think about that?
That's good. I mean, it makes so much sense. But the problem is it's like, as parents, it's hard for us to graduate from each of these steps too, right? Because we're still in protective mode. We're still in teaching mode. But the reality is the kid is growing up and we almost have to grow up too. And how do we switch that, like, to teach less and to protect less and just model more? That's hard for parents.
I think looking back, tell me a quick story. Looking back on my 6th, 7th grade, I think a big part of who I became and who I am as a man right now, I really believe this, is because my parents let me ride my bike to school with my friends, and they let me ride my bike to the Concord, California Mall, which is about maybe 45 minutes away on bike. And I mean, talk about growing up in the 80s and 90s, how it's so different from today. But it was so good because it's like we need to let our middle school kids walk around the mall by themselves with their friends. And if you haven't done that yet, then you are probably, that's just like something that stands out to me. You might be struggling with the stages of parenting. You're still in your fear. You're still in your protective mode.
Right.
Tell me a story or thoughts.
I think for me, it was the work ethic that my parents modeled the most because they both worked. They were divorced. My dad was a self-employed, floor covering expert. And then my mom had an array of jobs, but she was a single mom working a lot. And so I noticed the work ethic and it made me want to have a good work ethic. I remember my dad telling me about, being self-employed and how well you can do if you work for yourself and kind of create your own business. And so as a kid, I remember like wanting to mow people's lawns and start a little lawn mowing business. I had an uncle tell me like, hey, if you want to afford this, you got to save up, save up your money so you can buy this for yourself. And then, over time, I would get my first job, I think as a 7th grader at a palm tree farm, trimming palm trees. Cause I just wanted to start making money to buy things on my own and not rely as much on my parents. I think that's what they instilled in me in their modeling. They didn't even know it
really
too.
Good. And you know what? I realized listening to my clients that are either my one-on-one clients or my VIP membership clients, is that one of the reasons why parents of middle school students are in so much pain, some of them, is because they're trying to pass these great values on to their middle school kid, like values to work ethic.
Right.
Like I have a new client, and he just really pushes buttons. This son is just naturally talented at basketball and guitar, but he refuses to practice. And this man is very successful because he practices, he works hard, and he feels like he's modeling a good
Right.
work ethic, right? And so this is tough. What do you do when you're trying to model your good things to your child, but then they're not your perfect student? They're not your little bonsai tree that you can mold. They're not like a chip off the old block. It's tough. And then you kind of go into
It is
lecturing
tough.
mode or force mode, or you just give up.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that is a tough.
I mean, so as parents, like when we get to this stage and we have to model, do we just make sure that we have a very healthy daily list of things we do and just do it over and over and hope that it's being seen by our kid? Wake up early, make the bed, go work out, read, or do we just do healthy things for us and hope it's catching
Yeah,
on?
let's talk about that, because I don't know. Let me gather my thoughts and think about that. And this maybe is a good time to do action step number 2 for us parents. How do we thrive through the stages of parenting? Okay, Jordan gave us number 1, which is always be mindful. Like, is this what I should? Is this the stage that I'm in right now? Is this what's best for my child? Here's second thing to think about. You got to parent the child you have, not the child you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how would that
That's good.
show up in the middle school years? Let me think of something right now. Here's something.
I mean, for me, let me point out this as an example. I'm noticing my kids are more aware of what I do. So, we shouldn't be doing this, but let's be honest, we all do it. Texting and driving, having the phone right there in our lap, driving down the road, looking at the phone and texting. I know they're seeing that, and I need to stop doing that. And so I'll put the phone completely away and focus on the road. Right. Or how about, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I'd love to pop a beer, which is great. You can do that. But what I'm saying is you're doing it every day. They're noticing it every day. And if I notice that they're noticing it, I want to take note of that and be like, okay, maybe that's not something I need to be showing them.
Yeah. Here's another example of modeling. Like, okay, let's say you got your middle school kid. It just doesn't want to do anything. No sports, no drama, no church youth group, no Boy Scouts. Just wants to veg out on screens. That's a pretty common thing, right? And so what do you do as a parent?
Totally.
You just say, okay, I'm just gonna let them do it. They're in 7th grade. I'm supposed to just be hands off and let them become a couch potato. And I'm just gonna model them a hard work ethic. Probably not. No. Okay. What you could do is say, look, it's my job to really be your teacher and to model what a healthy, balanced life look like. So no, you don't have to do year-round sports, but I need you to pick 2, or I need you to be involved in something, whether it be drama, or you need to have at least one day a week where you're involved in something. This is what we do as a family. It's my job to model a well-balanced life, and this is what we do here. So we model that, but then we use our power and our teaching to usher our kids. That could be a good word here, model / ushering our kids into good values, because they're middle school kids. So they still need a lot of direction and attention. This ushering. What do you think of ushering? You're hand holding them. You're like, you're like being ushered to your seat at a wedding. Like, I'm going to show you where you need to go here. And when you try to leave, I'm going to tighten up my grip, because you're in middle school. And when we get in high school, it'll be different. I'll loosen up quite a bit. But that seems like a good...
It's like taking directions on a map, right? It's like, I know California is to the west. So all I need to do is drive west. But the reality is I might need guidance to get me over there, because there's a lot of different routes I can take. And I need someone to usher me the right way to go.
I had a flashback to some of my middle school years. I was causing a lot of problems. I was misbehaving a lot in the 6th and 7th grade. And one of the ways I was misbehaving is I was acting out in school quite a bit, like class clown, troublemaker stuff. And I got in trouble. I got caught
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. But here's what I realized is that if you have a child who's acting out in school a lot, here's what might be going on. And I would say what's probably going on. If your child's acting out of school, misbehaving, one of the reasons why is could be because their ADHD or ADD is just very intense. It's very hard for them. But I know for me that I was not really emotionally connected to my parents during that 6th and 7th grade year. So I would act out because I wanted to. It was fun. And I wasn't thinking about my parents. I wasn't.
And you'd get attention from other people when you act out.
But the reality is that there's a lot of kids that want to act out in middle school, but they don't because they love their parents. They're connected to their parents and they know it would really hurt their parents or cause problems with their parents. And they care about their parents. And so they don't want to act out because they are thinking about their parents and they're ushering and that modeling. Isn't that true? And can you see how that kind of makes sense to this middle school years? Modeling, ushering, being so connected to your middle school kid and how your middle school kid really needs your connection and your ushering.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And this is a hard stage for so many of us parents, this middle school, because you're dealing with, emotions and puberty and all that stuff that goes with it. And it makes it that much harder for us. I'm trying to think of I had a movie in mind that I was going to share with this, and I've completely erased it now. I'm like, that's not going to work. But as you're saying this, it makes me think of Karate Kid, right? The newer one with Will Smith's son. And then you've got Jackie Chan as the old school Mr. Miyagi, right?
That's a really good movie. I've seen it for like 10 years, though. Please continue. Yeah.
It's a great movie. But, Will Smith's son's character, the main character in the movie, he loves this girl in China or he likes her. He has a crush on her and she has such strong ties with her family. She has to do certain things because of the family dynamic is exactly what you're saying. And she doesn't want to disappoint her father and she doesn't want to disappoint her family and she wants to honor them and it has to do with violin practice and all this stuff. But I love this whole dynamic of the Mr. Miyagi, the professor, I think it's Han in that movie who teaches this kid, who provides wisdom for this kid and guidance for this kid and ushers this kid into a healthy relationship.
Really good, man. Most movies of kids do not have parents. When you think about one of the greatest movies ever made, Goonies, the parents are not involved.
Goonies.
There's no parents here. These kids are on their own on a wild adventure. And so the next time you watch a movie, just ask yourself, how are the parents being portrayed? And what's brilliant about this movie is that these parents on this East Coast Massachusetts town, they give their kids growing up in the 80s here the freedom to go out there and to go on adventures. And so, yes, one of the things you need to let your middle school do is to go on adventures apart from you.
That's smart.
Whether it be summer camps or wakeboarding or skiing or rock climbing, push them in or going to drama camp. Usher them into adventures, and hopefully you'll be there for some of them, and some of them you shouldn't be there.
Is it okay to force? If they don't want to,
man,
and
that's
this
part
is
of
going to be good for them?
Like ushering them into you've got to go to camp. You've got to go. I need you. Okay, right? Doesn't that make sense? You agree with that? Force your middle school kid into doing hard things, scary things. That's part of good parenting.
I just wanted you to say it because I think a lot of people will be like, well, they really don't want to. But then the reality is, well, I know we should let them make their own decisions. But if I let my kid make his own decision, he would stay home every day. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to. I just want to stay at home. I'm like, well, you're such a hermit. No, you've got to go do this.
I'm glad you asked because I knew, because that's what I was saying. Would you force your kids to eat vegetables? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
You force your kids to eat.
Right. Can't let them decide.
You're not going to let your kid eat mac and cheese and chicken nuggets all day, every day? No. Yes, part of.
So what do we do as they go into senior?
Now we've got
high school.
Two big phases. Okay. When you hear the term rites of passage, Jordan, what do you think of?
Well, I think about our podcast that we just did about rites of passage. I think about some big event that helps them feel like that they're an individual. They're still a part of this family, but they're an individual that can make their own decisions. They can step up to the plate. They take face on
Everybody
the challenge.
go back and listen to that episode, The Rites of Passage. Now, here's what I want you to do in your mind right now is realize that when your kids become those high school students, they need to have a rites of passage, and you need to go through a rites of passage in your mind. You cannot and should not be parenting a high school kid the same way you're parenting a sixth grader. Does that make sense? It's like this has got to be more launching, more rites of passage. And the key, what you want to focus on, if you've got a high school student or senior high, is you want to thrive as their coach, coaching them.
Right.
Coaching.
And try to promote healthy rites of passages and not necessarily because there's a lot of unhealthy rites of passages too that happen in high school.
So when you hear that term coaching, what comes to mind for you? What do you think of when you hear coaching your future high school students?
Guidance, right? Suggestions. Hopefully they're at a point where they will open up to us and then I can instill just my thought process and allow them to make their own decision. Cause they're at that age where you can't necessarily force them. And some, let's be real, like some high school students are much bigger than their parents, right? So it's not like you can manhandle them anymore like you used to when they were 4 or 5, grab their hand and force them across the street. So when I think of coaching, I just think of talking about from, whatever your idea is, whether you have a biblical background of like how you think life should be, or you just want them to be a good person, you instill your thoughts on how to get there, and hopefully they will see that and go that direction.
Here's a couple things to think about. Here's some imagery. Okay. Think of a really, really amazing sports coach. Okay. What does this coach do? Here's a couple things this coach does. The coach adapts his or her coaching style to fit every player's need. You got to coach the player you have, not the player you want. You got to coach the player you have, not your system that you want. Another thing a good coach does. A good coach is not afraid of discipline. A good coach is not afraid to see a player on the field acting out. It's their star player and say, nope, you're coming to the sideline. You are coming to the sideline.
Yeah.
A good coach is not afraid to suspend a player from a game. A good player is not afraid to be.
You're back. Oh, it was a microphone thing. Hey.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I got you. It was at 42 on mine.
Yeah, I don't know
what. Start from there.
Can't change. Okay.
I lost you again.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Oh, I lost you again. Oh, there you are.
We're good. Okay, we're looking good.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Okay, let's continue. Okay, it looks like we're recording again. And here we go. Okay,
Okay.
yeah. And
So you were talking about a good coach.
I already said a good coach, not a. I already just said something like for Assad, our producer, a good coach is not afraid to suspend a player from a game. And let's pick it up with this line right here. And a good coach is just
Right.
so positive. It's so like a cheerleader. It's very emotionally connected to his or her players. Coaching. So, Jordan, you're going to be parenting high school kids in a few years.
Oh, I don't want to think about it. That's
Is
so
it, man?
scary.
Why?
Oh my gosh.
Why is it scary?
It's scary to me. Yes, it is. Yes. I don't know. First off, I don't think I should be old enough to parent a kid in high school. I mean, I still, don't get me wrong. I still got what? I still got 4 years or whatever, 5 years. But it's just weird to think about that. I still remember every moment in high school like I was just there.
Such a trip.
Like
Such a
my
trip,
kids
huh? Such a
can't
trip.
be old enough to be in high school. And I know all of the drama that comes with it, right? So it's just like, I don't want to have them deal with that.
I think in 2024, one of the keys to really thriving as a coach of a modern high school student is really building that connection. I know I just say that for all the stage, being closely connected during the teen years. And the second one is set the bar high and keep it high. Your kids are going to come up with a lot of excuses, a lot of reasons to lower that bar. And don't do that. Do not do that in your kid.
Right.
Do not accept D's and F's. Do not be okay with them abusing substances or screens or alcohol or abusing their siblings or just being lazy bones and not being involved in the community or being with the family. Mm-hmm. Do what you need to do. Do the hard work of being connected to your kid and setting the bar hard. And if you need any help, we'll just realize I'm here. I'm just a phone call away. I can work with you. I can coach you. Jordan, I think you're going to be a great coach of three future high school kids. You are going to just really thrive. So. Is it going to be hard for you to make that shift, to let go of more power and to coach them? I don't think it's going to be hard for you. I think it's going to become a natural shift.
I hope so. I mean, one thing I want to do is I just want to help them thrive in the things that they're interested in, right? So, find out what their passions are and help promote that and share that with them. So I hope it's not hard. Oh. I think it could be, especially when I, sometimes I'm going to sleep and your subconscious comes alive and you wake up like in the middle of your halfway going to sleep and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I already this old? How do I already have kids this age? How do I deal with this situation? And it's like, but you could do it. It's like I tell them, which is a silly analogy, but how do you eat an elephant? Which we don't eat elephants, but how do you eat an elephant? You do one bite at a time. Yeah. So just take that one step and then the next step. Don't jump to the next floor. Just take the stairs one step at a time.
That parents that you might be thinking about as you think about this shift in your mind, which we've talked about is so key. If you're thinking to yourself, to your high school kid, it's my job to protect you, then you're probably not thriving in this. If you're thinking, I need to know where you are all the time. I have to track your location services. I'm your parent. I need to know. You're probably not thriving as a parent of a high school kid, right? It's like this, you're struggling with wanting this control and living in parenting in fear. No, like part of having a high school kid means they're out there living their life and that's part of this letting go of, you don't need to know when they go from one house to another. This is what high school kids do. They meander. They hang out at 7-Elevens. They want to go to the local Target just to hang out in the parking lot. And they don't have a plan. They don't have an agenda. That's part of you building trust with them and them trusting you. Can I trust my parent to let me kind of be adventurous and to live my life and like kind of sow my royal oats is a great movie quote from Coming to America there. And can you trust them to really, when they're out there, to be so connected to you that they're still making wise decisions and you're still connected with them? When you think about a high school age, what's some movies that come to mind for you?
That's good. Dude, so I'm a huge time travel buff. Like I love time traveling movies. I think Back to the Future trilogy is my favorite trilogy of all time, right? But for this, I love the movie.
That's my movie too. That's what I had. That's what I had queued up too.
No, is it?
It's my movie
it's such a good movie. That's hilarious. It's a great movie where he goes back in time and he coaches his kids from a younger self.
I have a podcast.
That's so funny. We both picked that movie.
Called like why, I think it's entitled this. You can go listen to it, everybody. It's called like Why Body Swap Movies Are a Parent's Dream. Because what these
It's
Freaky Friday, it's on my notes right
Freaky
there.
Friday, we
Because the
watched
body
that
swap
one.
genre, what
That's
it
so
does
funny.
is, you know, it forces this parent to go back in time and to see the world, you know, their world,
And
their
live in
mind,
their
their
world.
temptations, their insecurities.
Yes, their world.
And Mr. Rogers has a really famous quote. You see this
Right.
quote even through, I made videos about this quote. He's being interviewed by Oprah, and Oprah's like, you know, what is a tip you have for parents or something you think you encourage? And Mr. Rogers says something like this. Fred Rogers, the legend of Fred Rogers. He says something like this.
The
He says, you
legend.
know, I think you've got to, you know, remember your own childhood. And it's really important for you to remember your own childhood. And that's what body swap movies force the parent to do. And they invite all of us to go back and to realize, like, it's not about us. Like, this is their childhood, their world. Dude, great movie. 17 again.
What I love about it too is because like the kid's defense, I was like, well, you don't know what it's like, Dad. You don't know what it's like, Mom. And in these movies, you're like, well, really, I kind of do now because I'm living in it. I love that. I'm glad that
I had
we
a
both
client
picked it too.
call me
if anyone hasn't seen
yesterday
it, it's a great
because
movie. I
my
love it.
VIP members get a lot of access to me. They all get my private cell phone numbers, and she said, Sean, I need to talk to you emergency because she had found on her freshman daughter's cell phone some sexting and some very sexual conversations that this 14-year-old girl is having with unknown numbers. So they could be 65-year-old men, pervs.
What?
Could be sexual offenders. It could be people in it.
No.
They're different. It could be people from her school. It could be people from different states. The mom doesn't know. So the mom is just very scared, freaking out, right? And while this is a hard situation, there's actually always good things that come out of hard situations. And one of the good things that has come out of this is at least you kind of know this is where, you know, this is where this girl is at. This is what she wants to do. This is where she is at this time. So almost like it's like a forced body swap. Like you now are seeing a glimpse inside of your daughter's mind. And it's scary.
Into her life.
And you prefer it not to be there.
Okay.
But at least now you know. It's like when I say body swaps are like a parent's dream, it could be, it feels like a nightmare, but it's actually a good thing because now you know this is where my kid's at. And I've got to parent this child. I've got to teach. I've got to parent the child that I have, not the child I want. And I need to do it well because this child, this 14-year-old girl really needs her parents right now. He needs her parents. Yeah, man, I actually have a whole
what your guidance was on
video
that?
that I'm going to record for my clients so they can go watch it in these crisis moments because there's a lot. There's like 7 points, so I'm not going to get into it now. But essentially, here's a couple of the points, like table of contents is the first thing is you've got to really manage your own emotions in this, right? How you respond as a parent needs to be very important. You do not want to respond with shame or guilt or Catholic guilt or in a way that traumatizes the child. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That
because
can be
if you
hard,
respond
but yes,
poorly
that makes sense.
to something like this, it could really cause damage in the child-parent relationship, you know?
It seems like the response, you could have 100 responses, 98 of them.
So hard. Oh my gosh,
wrong,
so true, right? Isn't that true?
And it'd be so hard to find.
Man, that's a good point. Right. So true.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some coaching, some tools around that of how you respond well, what you do's and don'ts. Also, you know, this is just evidence that if you were to give a 14-year-old like a rifle and Grandpa Joe were to mentor that child and how to use a rifle properly, and the 14-year-old does not use it properly, well, it's just a clear message that the 14-year-old is not mature enough for a rifle right now, right? You need to take a break. He needs to spend some time away from a rifle. Right. Does that make sense?
Right.
More than a day away from a rifle.
That makes sense.
And so parents are
Yes, you
modern
need to
parents are
respect
very
that.
afraid of taking a cell phone or screens away from their child because they're so afraid of how it's going to hurt their social life, affect their mental health, hurt the child parent
Sure.
relationship. But yeah, there's just ample evidence from science, from research, and then from every day. If your child is mature enough to have a phone, and most 14-year-olds are not mature enough to have an unfiltered, unregulated phone. It's just the facts. And so
100%.
they just need more connection, more parenting
And then
around the phone
as you
usage. This child needs intense parenting right now.
so as you continue to age and you are now a quote unquote adult and are 18, you're going to college, you're starting a business, you're getting a job. What is our role as parents
Yeah.
then? Because we're still a
Yeah, the
parent,
chart
but
says
yet
mentor.
we don't have
It's
as
just
much
like
say anymore.
mentor. This is now you're really mentoring. You're moving now into a wise sage. You want to be viewed as a wise sage. And what that means is that their expectations need to be very high. As in, okay, you're 18 and above, or you're a senior now and above. This is what we need from you. You're not entitled to these things. We're not going to rescue you from these things. You need to launch in this direction or in this direction, and we are going to keep it high. We're not going to baby you. We're not going to just, we've done so much for you, and now we need to mentor you, and we're not going to force our wisdom upon you because we did our best. We did our best. You're 17, and I'm not detaching from you. I'm still here, but I'm not forcing my will upon you. But now I need you to do your part, and I'm going to do my part from sitting on the sidelines even more. Does that sound healthy to you?
Yes, but I'm going to ask you a difficult question now. Okay. Let's say the kid is 20, 21, shoot, 22, just graduated college. Okay. You are in that mode. You have graduated as a parent to be a mentor.
Yeah.
The kid can't get a job.
Yeah.
Bills line up. Hey, you can come move back in with me. Do I need to step back because you are now under my roof again? And so I have to take a step back, or do I stay as a mentor under my roof with my rules? Do you know what I mean?
They are. So
a lot of parents are in that situation.
Response. Mentor, not enabler. What's the difference in your mind between a mentor and an enabler?
Right.
What do you think the difference is?
Well, you're going to guide, right? You're going to give advice. You're going to try and teach. You're going to do all these things that we've already led up to, but you're going to help push them in a positive, avenue or road. All right. Track. You're not going to enable, meaning if they have a problem, if they have like a video gaming problem and they're up until 4 a.m. playing video games and they're sleeping all day, right? You can't enable that if they're going to live.
And that's what a lot of modern parents are struggling with.
Yeah.
They're still enabling their 17-year-old. They're enabling their 22-year-old. They're enabling their 25-year-old. And it just says more about their fears and their failure to launch than it does the child. The child is very capable of launching, getting a job at Starbucks, at Big O Tires. The child is very capable.
And honestly, one of the best learning tools for all of us is to get out of the house and have to provide for ourselves, get a job and have to pay rent. If you let them live with you, I say this now, we'll see if they're going to, if they have to live, I'm charging you to live here because you need to know what that's like. You can't just get free rent and be like, I don't need to go get a job. One of our biggest problems as parents right now is what sociologists call extended adolescence. We're letting our kids be kids longer. And they say, I'm just a college kid. I'm 21. I'm just a kid. But they're 21. My grandpa at age 21 was living out what you see in Oppenheimer and what you see in World War II when he was 21, right? I mean, even our parents' generation we had to take a break from even college to go to the Vietnam War. Like, this is not that long ago, right? So, there's this reality fine line. Check. This is going back to your brilliant thing from the beginning of this episode. Okay, am I enabling my 19-year-old, right? Or am I still trying to mentor them? Or is this, if I missed it, do I need to move into this college or young adult? I've got a surprising movie pick for mine. What's your movie pick for this stage? Okay. What?
For me? Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. Mine, I think, is Good Will Hunting. I like Good Will Hunting. I think Robin Williams in that movie was amazing, and he was the ultimate mentor for Matt Damon at that stage of life that
Yes.
he needed. He was a psychologist in that movie, and he was trying to help him, but he gave him such good
Yeah.
advice, and I mean, such a well-written movie. I think that's the one he won an Academy
Man.
Award for. I mean, it's an amazing movie.
Well done. I think for me, my movie makes sense, even though it may not make sense to you. I'm going to go with a very non-traditional pick. I have a movie, big shocker. It's a Disney movie, and guess what? The parents are dead. Big shocker, even though that's about 70% of Disney movies, right?
Oh, jeez.
So I think Frozen is one of the best movies of all time. Definitely top 100. And the hero of the movie is actually
Frozen's great.
Who's the mentor? Anna. She's actually the hero. But Elsa is also a heroic figure, because what is it? You have these two young adults, and they're both stepping into their fears, and they're going out into the great unknown. That's actually a song, isn't it? The Great Unknown? Isn't that a song? All right, well, you can trust me.
Don't sing it. Please do not sing it.
And they're stepping into their fears.
Yes, it is.
And they don't have any cheerleaders. They don't have any parents there being like, I got you. I believe in you. They just did it themselves. They parented themselves. So in a perfect world, you see your 18 through 25-year-old just step into their fears. And the parents are there in case there's a failure. They're there to hold them, and to rescue them, but only for like a short period of time, or they're not there. You're at that balance, right? And you see these two young women just stepping into this young adult phase. Great movie.
Dude, we watched that movie. It's Frozen, it's Cars, and it's Coach on repeat every single day in my stage of life right now. So yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. You know what? As we kind of wrap things up, I want to, basically go over those five steps again. Will you read them one more time?
The protecting. It's really about stepping.
Early childhood, we protect. Protection. Good.
Teaching.
Elementary.
Realizing they need you. Put the phone down. Put the drinks down. They need a lot of attention, a lot of teaching, and they're very teachable at these ages. They're more teachable now than they are in the middle school years, when they become less teachable. Modeling and ushering,
what do we do?
That might mean some tough love or some boundaries and more freedom for them. Oh my gosh, coaching, realize you've got to earn the right to be heard. They're just not ready to listen to your dang pep talks. You can't just barge into the room and start giving them advice. You've got to coach them from the sidelines, realize this is their life, and you got to be wise with your teaching, with your parenting, with your mentoring. You are coach.
And then as they become an adult, college or after.
Cheerleading, setting the bar high and mentoring them into this, individuality and into their own individuality, which is going to be different than yours.
Into life.
I love parenting.
As I think about what I'm thankful for today, I'm going to say I am thankful for all the creators out there who've given us some amazing movie content that we've highlighted today, because it wouldn't be here without good creators out there. So shout out to all the creators.
Friends and the family members we have in our lives, because we don't have to go through parenting alone. We have friends, we have relatives. You can ask your co-parent, you can ask your friend, hey, do you feel like I should step in with my child, or should I step out? Should I protect here, or should I let go? And I'm thankful that we don't have to go through these stages alone. Mm-hmm. We have each other. We have people in our lives to talk to you and to ask advice. And if you don't have these people, well, then go out there and find them, because there's people that love you and who want to love you and want to love your kids. And you don't have to go through parenting alone, everybody. Much love, everyone.